moderating tonight. Gail Hedstrom is also with us. She'll monitor questions as they're submitted. I'll talk about that here in just a second. She lives in Upper Lake and has been a member of the West Central Area Community since 1992, and she works at the Fergus Falls Public Library. If you're in the audience tonight and you have questions as we get the candidate forms started, you should have been supplied with some paper. Please write one question per piece of paper, and if you hold it up, we do have Jill Bukins here somewhere, and John Kraft, who will be picking those questions up from you. If you are at home and you are watching the live stream and would like to submit a question, we do have an email set up for submitting questions. It'll be a little bit difficult to kind of watch the live stream chat feed. So you can submit your questions to questions@isd2342.org. Gail will be watching the email as they come in, and we'll be able to kind of group those together and give them over to that to ask tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass things over to Deb.
Thank you. Okay, welcome. The purpose of a candidate forum like the one we're having tonight is to provide the public with an opportunity to see, hear, and question the candidates. And in return, the meeting allows the candidates to give the voters the reasons why they want the office they are seeking and to tell their qualifications. So we're going to just review some guidelines for tonight's candidates forum. The responses will be allowed only during the allotted time frame, which is 1 minute per question. Kari Kraft is in the front row, and she will hold up a green card to start. At 10 seconds, she will hold up a yellow card, which will mean that summarize your statement, your time is ending soon. And then a red stop card, meaning finish your sentence and stop. Questions will be asked of the candidates in an order determined and agreed upon at the pre-forum meeting. The moderator will repeat a question at the request of a candidate. Do not hesitate to indicate that you would like a repeat. Just say repeat, please. The moderator will not interrupt the speaker unless remarks A, constitute a personal attack on another opponent, or B, the timekeeper gives a cutoff signal. In-person audience questions, as Michelle said, should be written one question per card. And if you have those, hold them up, and the page will collect them from you, and they'll deliver those questions to the moderator's table. And again, if you are at Facebook Live and would like to submit your questions, do that at questions@isd2342.org. And again, they'll be noticed by Gail here at the table. All audiences' written or submitted responses or questions will be grouped to avoid duplication of questions and will be focused on the issues appropriate to the school board. So at this time, we're ready to start. And we're going to be starting with three questions that the candidates did receive ahead of time and are prepared for. And by the luck of the draw, our first person to start with the opening will be Jeremiah Ulrich. The question to all the candidates is, introduce yourself and answer the question, why are you running for this office? Introduce yourself and answer the question, why are you running for this office? Maya, 1 minute.
I'm Jeremiah Ulrich. Most people know me as Maya. My wife Valerie and I have lived in Elbow Lake for the last about 20 years. We have 5 kids. Our oldest, Caitlin, graduated last spring. She currently is going Morehead State. We also have Kennedy, who's a junior, Sydney is a freshman, Brinley is a 6th grader, and Maddox is a 1st grader. Like I said, we've lived here in the district. I grew up in the district. I was from the Wendell area. I graduated here, and I'm running for the office because I feel that education is important, and we're doing some great things here at WCA, and I want to be part of that.
Okay, thank you. And then Terry.
My name is Terry Christensen. My wife, Terry, also teaches here at West Central, Spanish teacher in high school. We have our oldest daughter, Taylor, is a Spanish teacher at Crookston. Our middle daughter, Tiana, is finishing grad school to be a physical therapist at the Jamestown College campus in Fargo. Our youngest son, Tate, is a senior here in West Central area. I grew up, graduated from Lake Wendell in '86, last year of the Old Eagles. My brother and I farmed together around Elbow Lake. And I'm running for, I've been on the board for 4 years now, and I really enjoy doing whatever we can to help out with the school and around the West Central area, the entire district, and doing whatever we can to help out.
Thank you. Natasha.
Hi, my name is Natasha Kaiser and I'm from Hoffman. I have 4 kids in this school district. We have lived here for 10 years now, and I grew up here and graduated from this school. I am interested in running for school board. I have a degree in social work, and I have been a president in MSSA regional, the committee, and so I have lots of practice with changing policy in our regional areas, state level, and I believe I can help in our local area too. And I would like to be able to help our local community and our children. Thanks.
Thank you. And then Kesha.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kesha Trinka. I'm a past WCA alumni. I currently live in Hoffman with my husband and our 2 little boys. I am in a leadership role for the past 10 plus years for a 5-county local mental health agency that serves both adult and children's. Why I guess at this time I decided to run for board is I wanted to kind of step up and take a more active role in the decision-making process for our school district. I think WCA is a great school district, and I just want to ensure that we continue to create an environment that will really foster the opportunities and lead to academic success for our students. So I guess that's at this time why I'm running.
Thank you. And then Gary.
Good evening. My name is Gary Sabalik. I'm married to Beth Sabalik, and we have 5 children together, all of which graduated or have attended WCA. I lived here my whole life. I come from a long line of education. My grandmother actually taught in a 1-room schoolhouse in the Kensington area. My grandfather was on the board, I know, when they built the last addition to the Kensington School, and we're very passionate about education. I was fortunate enough to receive a great education and move back and actually work in the communities that we serve. I've also, I wanted to touch on that I think it's important that we're running to serve and support our district's needs, but working to ensure the best possible educational opportunities for our students now and into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. And then Kevin, we just had a comment come on our the feed here, and they're having a hard time hearing us. And I don't know if it's just my mic or the others, but okay. Thank you. Okay. And then Sheena, introduce
Hi.
yourself and why are you running for this?
I have to apologize. I've heard my own voice over microphone, so we'll just get through this together. I have 5 kids. My name is Sheena Hack. My husband and I have 5 kids. We currently live in Hoffman. I'm from Kensington. We moved back to the area in 2010 so that our kids could enjoy the same opportunities we had attending West Central. I chose to run now because many people have been encouraging me to do it probably the last 5 or more years. And each year I'm getting a little bit more pressure, and I decided now was probably a good time. I've sat in on many school board committee meetings and regular meetings. Many of those times I was there with a purpose. It was either busing things, recess time, playgrounds. So I am interested in the process, and I would like to bring in the perspective of a mother with kids in high school all the way down to pre-K. So with 5 kids, I'll probably be here anyways. I would like to do my part and help the district.
Thank you. And now Heather. Heather is joining us by virtual.
Hello, I'm Heather Johnson. My husband, Jeremy, and I moved to Elbow Lake in 2003 after college. We have 3 children. Our 3rd grader, Caleb, we have a 1st grader, Wyatt, and our kindergartner, Leah. My little history, I worked in public accounting for over 10 years in a smaller firm in Fergus, and spent some time in Swift and Sour and Elbow Lake as well. My main focus was auditing local government entities, mainly schools and cities. And currently, I work at Auditville Power, and I'm the manager of financial reporting there. I'm running for school board as I feel like my background and my knowledge, skill set, I could offer a service to our district and our community.
Thank you. Heather, were you able to see the signs, the color?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. We just have to double check these things. We're doing things in entirely different ways, so we're adapting as we go. So thank you. All right. And then Kayla, introduce yourself, please, and why you are running for this office.
Good evening, my name is Kayla Samstead. My husband Dave and I have lived in the West Central Area School District for the past 17 years. Our oldest son Damon is a sophomore. Our middle son Owen is an 8th grader, and Piper, our daughter, is in 4th grade at South Elementary. I feel like I would be a strong asset to the school board, and that is why I'm running. I want what is best for our children and our community. I am currently the RN housing manager at Hoffman Senior Living, so I work in the community as well, and I feel like I work well as a team and be able to be respected in the community considering I'm already out there in my current job. So thank you.
Okay, and then Claire.
Good evening, my name is Claire Vincent. I'm here in the audience, and we have 3 adult children. We live here on Lake Pomponier, and I was the principal of this school for 4 years. I'm running because I care deeply about our students. I'm an experienced educator. I have the time and dedication now to really serve as a board member. 5 years ago when I came to interview, I saw that apple orchard. I couldn't believe it. It just was amazing to me. And it's been that way ever since in this district, and I want to continue to be involved. I think you're a great district, and I give my full support whether I win or not. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And then we'll move to our first round of questions. The comment that we are receiving, and this is just a reminder for anyone that's watching on Facebook Live, the person coming through on TV is the best, but everyone else is almost silent unless you are using headphones. So we'll try to make those adjustments. Okay. The next question, we'll start with Mr. Christensen, Terry. The question is, and you will have 1 minute to do this, if you were going to plan an ad trying to promote West Central area schools, what would you consider the school's #1 asset or selling point? 1 minute.
You said this 4 years ago, and I still feel strongly the same way that our #1 asset is our staff. Our staff is committed to this school. I think more than anything, just looking at what they've been through, the changes in administration, and now with the whole COVID situation that we're in. I know my wife, for one, couldn't wait to get back to meet the students. As hard as it is, this is just a matter of fact. We have to live with this, and our staff is doing everything they can to make sure that our students get the education that they deserve. It's not easy. There's no right, there's no wrong. They're learning every day. So I mean, the fact that they want to make sure that they're doing the best job they can is pretty incredible. Staff is number one.
Okay, thank you. And then Sheena.
The number one asset is definitely what a family everybody in the community is. When you move into this area, you are so supported. Your kids have a lot of support. They build long-lasting relationships, and I truly believe that is unique to WCA. So I would say that the school district being one big supportive family is definitely the number one asset.
Thank you. And then Heather. And we'll get set up for this. If you were going to plan an ad trying to promote West Central area schools, what would you consider the school's number one asset or selling point?
I feel the most important selling point for the district are our small class sizes that are paired with our amazing teachers and support staff, and the opportunity our children have for the individualized instruction from the dedicated and caring staff are second to none. And you know, just meeting each child where they're at is a definite plus for our district.
Thank you. And then Natasha, if you were playing that ad to promote the school, what would you consider the school's number one asset or selling point?
I believe that our number one asset is our creativity of our teachers and their implementation of the sensory tools into the classrooms, and how they use those tools individually with the different children to help them with their education.
Thank you. And then we'll move to Gary.
I believe our district has so many unique and important assets. It's hard to pick just one for me, but I think the diversity of our communities and our families that support our students in their efforts to achieve the best education possible is probably where I would land. The district is relatively small in size in terms of what it serves, but I think we have some of the most robust opportunities for our students of any surrounding district or like-sized district, and that alone will help our students achieve the maximum amount of success. These factors, accompanied with what I believe is the best staff, the best admin team, and the best volunteers, really helps our students achieve their maximum result.
Thank you. And then Kayla.
I feel West Central's best asset is definitely the staff and teachers. You can tell right away that they're very caring and compassionate, and they care about every single student, whether it be a student that needs more help or a student that needs more challenges. My kids agreed with the staff, but I did ask each one of them, and my boys definitely said sports, which is pretty typical. Piper said everything, so West Central is very good at everything they do, but the staff and teachers make it what it is.
And thank you. And then Kesha, if you were going to do that ad, what would you consider the school's number one asset or selling point?
So to me, it's the same thing Sheena said. Our biggest asset is the West Central strong community that we have. It's like a second extended family, if you will. We made sure that we moved back to this area just so our kids could be raised within the West Central School District system. My husband was not raised rural and from the bigger, larger school district, so I had to explain to him it's something that can't be taught in a classroom, it's felt, and I think everybody here is a part of the West Central community, so it's really something felt, and that encourages and promotes the development of our children, because there's so much support from the teachers to the staff to the community to the moms and dads that are at all the activities. So to me, our biggest asset is the WCA community.
Thank you. And then Maya.
I think what comes to mind for me is opportunity. We have really great kids and great staff. There's no question about that. But I think we we give them, with that combination, we give great opportunity to our kids, and we continue to build on that. And so, you know, the idea of you can be whatever you want when you grow up, we really offer that here. You know, whether you want to go to college for 4 years or 10 years and be a doctor, or you want to leave here and go drive a truck, we give opportunity to any kid for whatever they want to do. And we continue to try to build on that and make things better here for any kid and any opportunity that they want to proceed or go after. So, you know, whatever you choose to do, you have an opportunity here at WCA to follow that path.
Thank you. And then Claire.
Well, I guess I looked at this as a little advertising jingle or something, but I would say that WCA is a full meal deal. We offer rigorous, engaging, and diverse learning opportunities, many of which are customized to meet the needs of our district and community. The ag program, the medical careers classes, those are all exceptional ways we connect with the community. Small class sizes are amazing here, and we have climate that is wonderful. People feel welcome when they come to our schools. And the outcome of all that is graduates who leave with academic skills and core values that nurture our communities for many years. And it's really that's what's so special about this district. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now moving to our third question, and it's another one of the questions that the candidates received ahead of time. And this one we will start with Sheena. The question is, what do you consider to be the number one issue the school district needs to address or work on?
I think this is fresh in all of our minds right now with all of the chatter going on about the referendum. And normally, this is how I would answer the question, that our long-range planning and passing a referendum so we can address our aging buildings, and the board reflecting the wishes of the majority of the constituents. That's normally what I would say is an issue that needs to be addressed. However, since it's 2020, I think the biggest issue right now is adapting to COVID and keeping everyone healthy, safe, and there's many ways we potentially are going to have to adapt so that the students are still receiving the education they deserve.
Okay, thank you. And then Heather. The question is, what do you consider to be the number one issue the school district needs to address or work on?
Sure. I feel that the one issue that the school district could address or improve on would be interaction with the community and communication and working together with the community to help balance the needs of the district and the students, parents, staff, and the community, and together we can be stronger and work cohesive.
Okay, thank you. Natasha, to you, the number one issue the school district needs to work on or address.
As a mother with a child in the special ed department, who's following with a lot of other parents, continuing to improve our special ed department and facilities in that direction to help bring more students in to our school district and open enroll that direction.
Okay, thank you. And then Gary, to you, number one issue for the school district to address or work on.
I would say that we have a concern around ever-increasing costs that we need to try to address as we try to maximize the opportunities for our students, especially with the demands of society around some of the needs of our children, around mental health, around some of the IEP programs, some of the additional needs that are exceptional education needs that we're not getting funding for, and not giving up on any of the students that we have so that we can maximize each opportunity and really allow them to dream the dream that they want to dream and do that in a manner that's responsible to the taxpayers of our community.
Thank you. Kayla, the number one issue for the school district to address.
The number one issue that I'd say is to make sure that the all campuses, I mean, whether it's 3 schools or 1 school, that they all collaborate together so that each student is getting the same, offered the same things, no matter whether they're at North or South or in Barrett. I feel like there's always been a North and South rivalry, which I know that if you ask my children, they think it's a healthy and fun rivalry, which is good. But I think there could be better collaboration between the schools.
Thank you. And then Kesha.
We're very much in unprecedented times right now, so my response to this is the school district needs to make sure we're addressing the mental well-being of everybody. That includes our students, our teachers, administration. We focus a lot on physical health right now, but we need to ensure that people are mentally well. If they're not mentally well, we can't have expectations for them to learn. So we just have to ensure, even after COVID, that we really focus on taking care of the whole child, our whole staff. We need to ensure that they're receiving the resources and tools and have the support. Even teachers right now, they got a big burden on their plate, and how are we making sure our teachers' mental health is doing well? So that's what I would say. It's a huge priority that we need to make sure everybody is in a good kind of mental spot and receiving that support from us.
Thank you. And then Maya.
I guess I would echo the mental health. It's a serious issue, and it goes well beyond our doors. I see it in the military. I've been in the military for over 20 years now, and it's a never-ending battle, and it is not just from military time. We have kids coming right out of high school that are having issues that they didn't get from the military, and so the mental health piece, we got to get that figured out, and it's got to start young, because that's when we can help the most, is when we deal with our young kids, and we give them ways to cope and handle some stressors that we probably didn't have as we grew up. So I would echo that the mental health piece is something that we as a society as whole need to figure out, because it's continuing, and we got to get control of it. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Claire.
I concur with many of the other candidates this evening. I also have one other thing to say. I think WCA is gaining a regional reputation. We're forward-thinking and acting. We've done a number of things that have improved our instruction for students. We have dynamic staff, professional development, lots of courses that are helpful for students, as Maya said, regardless of what their path is after high school. What we must do right now is not let this building issue sideline this vital progress. We must continue to work on these issues while we solve the building issue at the same time. Lastly, I think communication is a frequent concern for many school districts, and we have that burden to communicate with families and also our taxpayers and other community members that aren't as connected to the school. We have to be perceived as credible and ethical and fiscally responsible. Those are essential things for us as a district. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Terry, the number one issue the school district needs to address or work on.
I think it's pretty obvious, and that's what's motivated so many people to run for the board is our, I agree we have a lot of issues, but the main issue right now is the facilities. And that's what we're trying to, we've spent hours and hours and hours at the board table trying to figure out the best option. One school, 3 campuses, what is the best option for West Central area right now? We've got a lot of different things. We've learned a lot with the whole COVID thing as far as people begging to get out of Minneapolis and move back out to the smaller rural communities. And so we've seen that. People working from home, they can work from remotely, and they can work anywhere. They want their kids to be in a small district. And so right now that is our main issue right now, is trying to figure out what we're going to do moving forward.
Thank you. Okay, at this time we're going to move into the questions that have been submitted either from the persons that are here in the auditorium or through virtual, through the computer. I was going to give you the address again, but we'll write that down and get that. Okay, so what Gail has done is combined the questions, and you will see that there is a stack that she has on this one. It's probably about 8 to 10 cards. All of these questions deal with what the personal skills or your strengths or your expertise or leadership skills will you bring to the table. So what personal skills, strengths or expertise or leadership skills will you bring to the table and communication skills for working with the public and representing all students? So we're looking for what skills that you bring to the table that will serve the district, the school, the community. As I told you as we started, if you need this repeated, just say, please repeat. And we'll be starting with Heather will be first.
Okay. As I mentioned before, working in public accounting, I have my CPA, and I have past experience in working with governmental utilities and government accounting and auditing school districts for over 10 years. So I have knowledge of how fiscally the fiscal responsibility of what a school board member is tasked with. I'm also bringing experience of managing teams, both as a previous auditor, I'm an audit manager leading the audit team, as well as now in my current role leading at Otter Tail Power. So working cohesively as a group together to work towards a common goal is a skill that I can bring, as well as working with public and presentation.
Thank you. And then Natasha.
Some of my skills, I have a social work degree. I have worked with families, I have worked with teams, I can work independently. I have done research. I have done regional work with regional teams on the regional level, state level, our own county level, in Grant County itself. In our local counties, I have been on teams. I have worked on state teams. I have even worked on doing things internationally through my social work degree. I can bring those skills to the table. I also work really closely with families. And I have also, my kids are involved in a lot of sports. I know many of the families through that, and through being a Girl Scout troop leader. You get to know all these families in your community, how families work together, and how our community works as a team. So I can bring those skills to the table, and I know how process works. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Gary, what personal skills, strengths, expertise, or leadership skills would you bring to the table?
I've had the opportunity to own and run a business in the community. I also own a dairy with my brother, and we own a crop farm. And with our ag inputs business, Baird Farm Supply, I know the critical importance of running a successful business requires financial acumen, it requires good operational skills, it requires the ability to work with new technology and implement that. But more importantly, I think what I've learned over the last 25 years in business is that you need to listen to the people, and you need to have the right resources on your team, and your ultimate resource is the people. That's our ultimate resource here in this community and in this district. And I think it's, I've got a strength to listen to the communities and to help guide them in the right way so that our students can achieve their maximum success.
Thank you. And then Kayla.
Like I said before, I'm a registered nurse. I currently manage Hoffman Senior Living, where I've been for the past 2 years. So as the manager there, I oversee all the staff. I deal with budgeting, audits, and as a nurse, I'm a critical thinker. So there's a lot of things that involve fast thinking. I mean, being able to think everything through and process it and make the best decision for whatever it might involve and whoever it might involve. Managing staff, my staff consists of people in the West Central Area School District. Everybody's local. That's the one nice thing about being in the community, is having people from the community work. So I have staff that have kids in the school district, and I also have kids that work for me that are currently seniors and juniors. So I hear it from both ends. So I feel like I can add a lot to the board that way too. Thank you.
And Kesha, what personal skills, strengths, or expertise or leadership skills will you bring to the table?
Sure, thanks, Deb. So currently I'm the administrator for a 5-county organization, like I said previously, so I think I have good leadership skills. In that role, of course, I do budgets and stuff, so I have good fiscal knowledge along with HR and personnel issues that may come up. I think it's important too for the members of the board to know the difference between the board's role and the superintendent's role, so I think I would fully understand that because I have board operations too for the past 11 years. Also, I'm a therapist by nature, if you will, so I feel like I'm a good listener and have good communication skills, and I think for being a good board member, the skills that we need is a team player, being able to adapt and listen to our communities and be someone that's approachable, even if it's hard feedback. I think you have to take that and implement that, so.
Thank you. And then Maya.
I guess I mentioned before, I've been in the Army Reserves for over 20 years now. I have a few overseas tours, and one thing you find when you're stuck overseas, you have to come up with a solution. You don't get to point fingers. You don't get to blame anybody else for things that didn't go right. You have to fix it and you have to move on. So the ability to come up with solutions instead of blaming who made the mistake, I think is important. Working as a team to accomplish a common goal is important. And I have some years of experience on the board here, which is very helpful. So all that together, I think makes me a good candidate. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Claire, what leadership, what personal skills, strengths, or expertise would you bring to the table?
Well, I think first and foremost, I have 35 years as an educator, and I still love education, and I think that's an important voice on a board. I also think that I'm not afraid to admit a mistake. I work hard, and much of my career I was in special education, and a key component of special education is teaming. And a board has to work together and collaborate and listen to each other and listen to the community. And that's something that's been central to my career for 35 years. I guess I'm getting old. I also think it's important to be nimble. You have to be able to address what I call the fire department issues. COVID would be a prime example, without getting sidetracked in what your real mission is and what your core function is as a board. And so those are strengths that I think I can share with the community. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Terry.
I think one of my strengths is everything that I try to do, I approach with common sense. There's a lot of things that, especially with the public school and the school board, you learn things that, there's a lot of things that probably don't make sense when it comes to public school or everything that's mandated from the state or things like that. But everything that I try to do comes down to common sense, being able to communicate very well. If I have an issue with someone, I try to talk to them directly, try to figure out the problem, figure out a solution, and then move forward. And once again, just like was said before, don't point fingers, just come up with a solution and move forward.
Thank you. And then Sheena, what personal skills, strengths, or expertise, or leadership skills would you bring to the table?
Is it on? Yep, okay. I served on the Parents Committee at Morningside Preschool in Edina, Minnesota from 2008 until 2010, where I learned a lot about working on a committee or board. And then when we moved back here in 2010, I worked with PACT for several years, and then we changed over to the name PTO. I was the president of PTO. While doing that, I really learned that I enjoyed organizing events, getting every little detail just perfect so that it ran smoothly for the students and teachers. I kind of thrive in chaos a little bit with the kids and being able to untangle crazy situations. So I do enjoy problem solving and brainstorming together. I'm not afraid to tackle tough issues. I do own and run a business in the community, and I do enjoy interacting in the community.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to the next question. And again, this is a compilation of probably 3 or 4 different questions, different presentations. But the questions all deal with the issue of the role regarding 1 or 3 building sites. So the issue of the role, the vote regarding 1 or 3 building sites. Do you support 1 or 3 buildings? And we'll start with Natasha.
I do not support 1 building site at this time. I don't believe that this is the year that we should be making that decision with COVID and all of the other issues going on. I believe maybe if it was brought up next year as a vote, could be a totally different circumstances, but I don't believe that this is the year to be making that kind of decision for our school district. And that we should keep it 3 different school sites right now.
Thank you. And then Gary, the issue of the vote regarding 1 or 3 building sites. Do you support 1 or 3 buildings?
Thank you, Deb. I would like to start with, as a current member of the board for WCA, we're asked to speak with one voice, and we have promoted on the ballot, as you're aware, the opportunity to move forward in a new direction with 1 site, and that is something that we do as a board with 1 voice. So that would be my response to that. That's what we want to accomplish. We believe we've taken in all kinds of input as a board, and we went through many, many meetings to try to evaluate the pros and the cons and try to determine what the best path forward is for our students so that they can be successful learners well into the future. With that, we have an opportunity at this particular point in time to capture up to $22 million of state-funded money on this project, as well as unprecedented low interest rates. So all of these things kind of culminated and led us as a board to a direction that says that we should try to move forward with a vote for 1 site.
Thank you. And then Kayla, the issue of the vote regarding 1 or 3 building sites. Do you support 1 or 3 buildings?
At this time, I do support 1 site. I always felt like it would be really nice to have all my kids in 1 location, having them spread between Barrett and Kensington. I mean, I realize we live directly pretty much in the center, but it would be nice to have all my kids in 1 location. Then that way they're all getting bused to the same site. We all know that there's busing issues from time to time. And then again, too, like Gary said, with the financial part of it, right now we have the opportunity with the grant money and the low interest rates. So, like I said, one option. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Kesha, the issue of the vote regarding 1 or 3 building sites. Do you support 1 or 3 buildings?
I'm just going to preface my answer that I think it's important that we recognize this is a sensitive topic for our communities, so I hope we can be respectful, and I am a yes vote, but I respect where people's pro and con list is without that, so I hope in our communities that we can stay strong together as a community. With that, my reasons behind the yes vote right now, the 1 campus, is I think for the sustainability of our school district, we have to be fiscally responsible, and I think that will, increase our sustainability and the money saved by the projections. We can put that cost savings into more academic opportunities for our children. Also, I did a little bit of research and was looking online for other places that are 1 campus facility, and I'm kind of excited about the opportunities that it could create across efficiencies for a 1-site campus. If you look at some of them other schools that have come together, it's learned to collaboration, increase in communication. You have your special ed, your nurse, your counselors right on staff, and your admins right on 1 building. So that's why I voted yes. I'm getting the right sign, sorry.
Thank you. And then Maya, the issue of the vote regarding 1 or 3 building sites. Do you support 1 or 3 buildings?
To start off with, I would say that I was a big advocate for the survey that we sent out. While it maybe was not a perfect solution, it did give us some insight on the public's desires here. They came out fairly well split, kind of a coin flip as far as 1 versus 3. And as I looked at that, I thought, well, then I should do what's best for the kids and for the district. And in my opinion, one site offers us a better educational opportunities for our kids, and it also offers the district a financial benefit as well. So as I think about that, I think, well, maybe as a board member, isn't that my job to do that? And I probably should have done that first. So as a board member, I feel it's my job to give our kids the best possible education we can and do it as financially responsible as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. And Claire, the issue of the vote regarding 1 or 3 building sites. Do you support 1 or 3 buildings?
I support 1 building. I also am acutely aware that there's no 100% positive solution for everyone in this community, and that's what makes it so hard. But I do think at the end of the day, that is the right choice. And probably the most powerful reason for me is when I think about the operating costs over year after year, 5, 10, 20 years, that has been labeled at $600,000, at least $500,000. I think about in 6 years, that's $3 million that can be spent on children and staff development and enrichment and making this an incredible school district. I think we're on the path to being the best school district around for miles and miles. And I think this 1 building will help us get there. And I think being able to spend that money that we would have spent on operating costs and spending it on children is much wiser. I also think it's fiscally more prudent for the taxpayers.
Thank you. And Terry, the issue of the vote regarding 1 or 3 building sites. Do you support 1 or 3 buildings?
For me, I guess, the sign of a good board is that we don't always agree on everything. We have some very good discussions. And for me, I did not vote for 1 site because I don't think the timing is right now. Like I said earlier, companies are learning that their employees don't have to be in a brick and mortar building down in Minneapolis to be productive and successful. And that's why I've talked to a couple of realtors in the past few weeks, and the property sales are going for more than asking prices because of that reason. I understand the fiscal responsibility, the potential savings. The one thing that we cannot and nobody can predict is if we go to 1 site, how many students are we going to lose on the fringes of this district because our district is so large. And that's one of my main reasons for hesitating to go to 1 building, because if we lose those students, then all of a sudden our savings are gone, and then we're right back to trying to figure it all out again. So.
Thank you. And then Sheena, the issue of the vote regarding 1 or 3 building sites. Do you support 1 or 3 buildings?
At this time, I support 3 buildings because we are such a long district and we have the 2 schools on the north and south side. It draws people in. They start in Kensington or they start in Elbow Lake because they have a school close. And a lot of people say, we're going to leave when the kid starts 5th grade. We're going to go somewhere else. And they don't, because they have built lasting, meaningful relationships. They've been supported by this community, and they stay. So if we close those schools, enrollment will drop greatly. The state-funded money is still taxpayer money. That tax credit is not going anywhere. It's still going to be available, even if we want to use it for a 3-site option. Interest rates are low, but building materials and labor are sky high. So I do not think it's a good time to even visit the issue.
Thank you. And then Heather, the issue of the vote regarding 1 or 3 building sites. Do you support 1 or 3 buildings?
At this time, I support 3 buildings. Similar to Carrie and Gina's comments, I'm going to repeat. I am also concerned about enrollment on the fringes of our district. A new building in the middle of the district or at any point in our district is not going to draw students away from the larger districts that neighbor us. And by centralizing, we will risk the loss of the enrollment and lose the savings I also believe that this is not the time economically for our community for this one site. I agree that the state tax credits are also taxpayer money, of which there may not be with the taxpayers for the 20 years bond.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're ready to move on to our next question. And this question deals with the board's responsibility to focus on student achievement. The question is, and we'll be starting with Gary at this one. In what ways do you see the school board being able to support student achievement?
Again, I believe strongly that the role of the school board is to employ a high-quality superintendent. That is our one direct report that we're responsible for, and then to really guide the mission and vision of the school. So if we get the right superintendent who employs the right admin team, then we have the right teachers and we engage the community in the right way, we're going to have a very successful district, as we do already. I mean, I'm very proud of the district that we serve on and all of the people that volunteer in so many endless ways, and the people that do their job and more than their job is asked of them. So our job as a board is to get that superintendent in place, of which we have a great leader today in Dale Hoagie with tons of experience, and then sort of help him build that team to support him, and then give the teachers the resources, really resource the district in the correct way so every student can achieve success.
Okay, thank you. And then Kayla, the board's responsibility to focus on student achievement. In what ways do you see the school board being able to support student achievement?
As a board member, I feel just being there to support everybody from the superintendent to the teachers to all the students. Just being a presence in the community and showing up to things, showing that you're there for everybody, no matter who it is, and making sure you hire a strong team to help support all the children. Thank you.
And then Kesha, in what ways do you see the school board being able to support student achievement?
Thanks. What I would say to this is, I think, like Gary kind of echoed, is you have to have a good leadership there too, but then the role of the board is kind of to identify the goal or the missions, and then have that good leadership implemented along the path that you want to see. I think for student achievements, and the board's role is we got to make sure the kids have the opportunities. If the opportunities aren't there, especially ever changing with the workforce that's going on and the career force, which is ever changing, we see now that we got to ensure that we're staying innovative and kind of on the top of the game for the opportunities we're able to create for kids, because there is such, like Jeremiah said earlier, a diversity of student goals, across that. We have to make sure we're giving every student the opportunity to achieve what they want to achieve as their own goal. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. And then Maya, in what ways do you see the school board being able to support student achievement?
I think as a current member of the board, I think we make it a practice to really look at, well, how does this affect students, every one of our decisions. We have to look at that first and make sure that as we're making those decisions, students are number one for us, and what is the benefit to our students when we make this decision. So putting students first and making sure that we weigh that against any decision we make, and doing the best for what our students need, and getting their outcomes to where they want them to be.
Okay, thank you. And then Claire, in what ways do you see the school board being able to support student achievement?
Well, I think there's the big systems issues that you need to do as a school board to ensure that you have the structures in place for a healthy educational experience. But I also think you have to make sure that your administrative team and your teachers have the training and the tools to monitor what's happening within structure, to measure, and how to intervene to help students. Not all students learn the same way, and we know that more than we used to, but it's really important that staff and administrators have the skills to monitor and to intervene. And that takes training, and it also takes time. It's a big deal, and it makes a difference. Thank you.
And Terry, in what ways do you see the school board being able to support student achievement?
I'd like to echo that too, as far as choosing the best admin team. We have a very strong admin team right now. They're doing the best job they possibly can with what they're faced with. We already know that the next board will be choosing another superintendent in a few years. And so I'm very thankful for Mr. Hogan's leadership, but the fact of the matter is, in a couple of years, we'll be finding another superintendent. And so if we need to find the strongest candidate we can to lead the district forward through the next period. And also to support the staff. It's up to the board to do everything we can to make sure the staff has the resources and support that they need to do their jobs the best they can. And that's how I feel.
Thank you. And Sheena, in what ways do you see the school board being able to support student achievement?
I think the board can support student achievement by really listening to community members and constituents, and by passing policies and voting in a way that supports students' achievements. I think an important part of that is listening to parents and students if they are identifying problems so that we don't have people falling through the cracks. I think as a board member or the board members should definitely be involved with as many community things as they can, so that the communities are engaged.
Okay, thank you. And Heather, in what ways do you see the school board being able to support student achievement?
I believe by providing opportunities to the district students, by having qualified staff engaging in the curriculum and having engaging curriculum for the students, resources to provide the creativity of the students and grow that, meeting the students where they're at and encouraging with continued leadership and mirroring our core values and keeping in mind how our decisions impact the students and staff and community.
Thank you. And Natasha, in what ways do you see the school board being able to support student achievement?
I agree with Claire. It's important for us to look at the policies and procedures, make sure they're being followed by like the superintendent, the admin, teachers, so that our students can have the best education that we can support and give them.
Thank you. Okay, we're ready to move on to the next question. And the next question is dealing with financial issues. If the building bond is voted down, how do you intend to keep the WCA fund balance healthy without cutting programs and maintaining 3 buildings? I'll repeat that. If the building bond is voted down, how do you intend to keep the WCA fund balance healthy without cutting programs and still maintaining 3 buildings? And we'll be starting with Kayla on this one. And again, if you need a question repeated, I'll try to repeat. I've been repeating, but if you need them repeated, please ask. Kayla.
So if it's voted down, I honestly would have to know all the specifics. Considering I'm not on the board currently, I don't have all the information in front of me, so I'd have to do more research and have more knowledge behind it to make a valid decision on that. I feel like we currently are managing well with the opportunities that our children have and with the current 3 sites and with the staff that we have. So I don't feel like we need to make any cuts in anything particularly. And obviously, like they've said before, I mean, the grant money and that stuff would still be there if we wanted to focus on the 3 sites versus 1 alone. So all in all, I'd still have to do more research. Thank you.
And Kesha, if the building bond is voted down, how do you intend to keep the WCA fund balance healthy without cutting programs and still maintain 3 buildings?
Well, honestly, I think that would be difficult. You know, that's why we're here and looking at this. And, you know, we kind of have to trust our board members that are there who have spent the time and had all this background knowledge, you know, from all the years. So what I would say is, first off, we're very resilient. So I know that we would figure it out. And 2, from my admin experience, your most expensive cost is your staffing. So if you're not wanting to cut programs, you'd probably have to filter back staffing. I think it's pretty clearly cut when Minnesota Department of Education, you know, they talk about is only reimbursing at that 2% rate, and then the cost of the buildings and just upkeep and staffing like that. So I honestly don't know what the right answer would be, because I think right now it would be really difficult. We probably can maintain, but we could create new opportunities, and that doesn't make you an appealing school district or the best for our kiddos. So if we want to create them opportunities, I think that we would be in a tough spot if we didn't have the referendum passed.
Thank you. And Maya, if the building bond is voted down, how do you intend to keep the WCA fund balance healthy without cutting programs and maintaining 3 buildings?
Well, I guess to begin with, we have the best finance office in the state, so they do a great job, and they'll figure out a way for us, but it is going to be difficult. We are going to have to make some decisions. We are going to have to figure out what happens next. At some point, we're going to have to make these changes, make these adjustments, and figure out what the next step is. So it's going to be a lot of work. We're going to have to go back to the drawing board and figure out what comes next. But you know, luckily we're in a good spot right now. That's kind of why we're proposing this, and we hope to continue forward. And you know, it's just more work. We're going to have to do a lot of work. So.
Thank you. And Claire, if the building bond is voted down, how do you intend to keep the WCA fund balance healthy without cutting programs and still maintaining 3 buildings?
Well, honestly, I think I would be inclined to do only the minimal amount of maintenance on our 2 elementary schools, because right now we can't kick this problem down the road any longer. We've been working on this for almost a decade, and we have to have a solution. The solution is not to allow these 2 elementaries to remain in disrepair and not move forward with a plan. So I would say we must go back to the drawing board and try and come up with something else, and in that time we do what we need to do to keep the buildings safe, but not much else. We have to have a new solution, and we have to be persistent about this.
Thank you. And Terry, if the building bond is voted down, how do you intend to keep the WCA fund balance healthy without cutting programs and still maintaining 3 buildings?
As of right now, we have the highest enrollment numbers I think we've ever had in the school district. So that's a big part of it. If it's voted down, if we have the enrollment numbers we currently do, and if we can continue to grow our enrollment numbers, like I said earlier, with people moving back to smaller communities, I think being able to balance the budget, it's pretty tough to project. I know that everybody wants to project out 5 years, 10 years, but it's really difficult, as everyone knows, when it comes to the schools. We don't know what the state is going to, state increase percentages will be each year, so it's really tough to predict. But if it's voted down, we go back to one of the other options. As a board, we've talked about several options, and so we would have to go back to the drawing board and figure it out.
Thank you. And Sheena, if the building bond is voted down, how do you intend to keep the WCA fund balance healthy without cutting programs and still maintaining 3 buildings?
As Terry mentioned, right now with the way enrollment is, we are doing okay. I do believe we need to pass a referendum. It needs to be something that the community will support so that we can actually get it passed. And I do believe we need to address the buildings. In 2013, they told us that we were going to go off the financial cliff in 2017. And the exact opposite happened. So it is very, very hard to project. I think if this fails, I could be wrong, but legally you have to wait 90 days before you can pass another referendum. So if we worked quickly and worked hard, we could come up with another plan and only be 3 months behind where we are right now. The ag tax credit would still be there, the low interest rates should still be there, and we could get something done.
Thank you. And then Heather, if the building bond is voted down, how do you intend to keep the WCA fund balance healthy without cutting programs and still maintaining 3 buildings?
I believe with working with the district staff and finance team to keep a balanced budget, will going back to the drawing board and finding a fiscally responsible option for all the communities. We can continue to work together cohesively and make efficient and effective plans and decisions, keeping research to learn from other districts and new opportunities and grants and such.
Thank you. Natasha, if the building bond is voted down, how do you intend to keep the WCA fund balance healthy without cutting programs and still maintaining 3 buildings?
I believe as a board, there are other options that could be voted in as a community that can be agreed upon. And I believe there are ways to draw families back in that opted out and are homeschooling this year or opted out other years that are homeschooling that we could bring back into the school and continue to bring enrollment back up.
Thank you. And then Gary, if the building bond is voted down, how do you intend to keep the WCA fund balance healthy without cutting programs and still maintaining 3 buildings?
I think as we do a little walk past in time, and we look at this district, and in particular this building and what we've created, and I think there's been some comments from some of the candidates up here, in particular Claire, what we've created and the opportunities that we have today have been built on passports and recommendations to move out of Wendell, close the elementary in Barrett, and close the elementary in Hoffman. And I think those, we would all agree, were the right decisions. And I think I hope that the community puts the trust that they did in the past boards and what our recommendation is now, and we can move forward with one campus and become more of a magnet and more sustainable school. Having said that, if we don't pass it, I think we got to listen to the constituents that didn't vote for it, because we've got some unsolved and unheard and unanswered questions. So that's going to be our goal and what we need to do. Ultimately, otherwise we'll probably have to raise our operating referendum, which is ultimately one of the highest in the area already. So those are our choices, I guess, and it's never that simple with just a minute. We don't have a lot of time to get into the details, but that would be my perspective.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to take a little different trip on this question. This is a bus route issue, and we'll be starting with Kesha on this one. It says, are you aware of the current busing issues within the district? Long routes have always been an issue, but especially this year, there are kids who are getting on before 6:30 a.m. and not getting home until after 5. Are you willing to look at negotiating bus contracts? Kesha.
So yes, I'm aware of the busing issues that we've had. I think especially that first week there was a large, couple busing issues that happened when school started. I know that bus times are really long right now, but I think to have normal expectations too, it is due to COVID and a pandemic right now, and the schools implement that, or Palmer Bus has, as safety measures. So I think a lot of people's hands are tied right now. Do we just sit back and say that's okay? No, because we always want to be an advocate and be a voice for kids. Like, how can we improve and make this better? I haven't personally, not being on the board, I haven't, read through the Palmer contract, but I think if I was a board member, I would be reviewing that and look at ways that we could improve. Again, when we talk about busing, that for me is another issue of the one site. Why I support that is because that would affect and improve our busing route and our busing issues as well. So that's That's my comment.
Thank you. And then Maya, are you aware of the current busing issues within the district? Long routes have always been an issue, but especially this year, kids are getting on before 6:30 and not getting home till after 5. Are you willing to negotiate busing contracts?
Okay, so yes, we were made aware of that. There were some things that happened the first couple weeks of school. Several families were not registered for bus routes. Palmer really worked hard to make those changes, and I'm not aware of any of those long 6:30 to 5 o'clock routes at this time, but I do know we did have some to begin with. They're continuing to work on that. When you have to have assigned seats and you have to check to make sure the kids are in the right spot, and you're trying to make sure that you know the route, and they're trying to get new drivers in, it's a battle. It's a hard one, and right now, you know, that it's a process that we have to work through. That's just all there is to it. Nobody wants kids to ride extra time on the bus. That's not a goal, but it's just a process that we have to work through and know that people are addressing it. That's for sure.
Thank you. And Claire, are you aware of the current busing issues within the district? Long routes have always been an issue, but especially this year.
I was not aware that that's a concern right now. I will say, because I've been in education for many, many years, September bus routes are usually tippy. They usually are longer. It sounds like things are working out now, but I do suspect that the COVID requirements are really exacerbating that problem. But it means that Palmer and the district has to work together to resolve this. And on occasions, you have to add a bus route. We don't like to do that, but once in a while, that's necessary. I don't have enough information about this situation, though, to recommend that. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Terry, are you aware of the current busing issues within the district? Long routes, kids are on before 6:30 and not getting home till after 5.
Yes, like Maya said, we have been made aware of it. You know, we've talked about several things as far as, you know, busing is one of our largest expenses to the district. We've talked about, do we go back to having our own bus fleet, or do we, you know, keep negotiating with Palmer? I do know Mr. Fosleen is doing everything he can on a daily basis. Yeah, we found out right away at the first day of school we had the situations came up. I think they dealt with them very well. I know he's worked hard with that. I know Palmer Bus Service has done everything they can. They've worked hard to solve the problems. The fact of the matter is, with the size of our district from one end to the other, I don't see how we'll ever get away from long busing issues. The only thing we can do is the best we can figure out, you know, what we can do to alleviate those problems.
Thank you. And Sheena, are you aware of the current busing issues within the district? Especially this year, there were kids that were getting on before 6:30 and not getting home until after 5.
Yes, I have been aware of that this year, and there is a lot of problems just associated with the regulations the bus company has to follow because of COVID. However, prior to this year, WCA has kind of had a bad reputation with their busing. I think it's something that just needs to be approved. And yes, I think we definitely need to look at the contract. The last time I looked at one, it was around 2012, and the contract had not been updated since 2002 at that time. The contract had little to no verbiage in it. When I rode the bus from Kensington from 1998 to 2000 something, we didn't leave Kensington until 8:05. In the last years, it has left Kensington at 7:30. I don't see what the point in that is. They're coming to Hoffman for a large exchange, which often proves to be complicated, and I think it can be bypassed completely.
Thank you. Heather, are you aware of the current busing issues within the district? This is especially true this year as kids are getting on before 6:30 a.m. and not getting home until after 5.
Yes, I am aware of the issue. I do believe it was made worse by COVID restrictions, and it's complicating it. This isn't an uncommon issue for most rural school districts, I believe, but what I do know is we have some amazing drivers and they're doing their best with the the constraints they are currently working under. But working with Palmer, I'm thinking it's resolved some now after the initial figuring out the route and finding ways to attract, working with Palmer also to find ways to attract more drivers, alleviate the issue at more routes.
Thank you. And then Natasha, are you aware of the current busing issues? Especially this year as kids were getting on before 6:30 a.m. and not getting home till after 5.
I am aware of the busing issues that are currently going on as of yesterday and today, due to COVID being a factor. Sometimes the buses are even showing up 20 minutes early to some places, or 20 or 30 minutes later, not showing up at all and driving by. And parents are wondering why a whole bus route didn't get picked up and buses are turning around. So I am very, very aware of the situation. But this is not a new thing. COVID is not the only factor. Busing has been an issue for several years. I spent a lot of time on the phone with Palmer Bus every school year because they'll drive by, or other parents have too. So this is not a new issue, and I do think the contract should be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you. And then to you, Gary, are you aware of the issue? Especially this year, kids are getting on before 6:30 and not getting home until 5.
Yeah, I know our admin team, and just let me comment on that for a second, has done an exceptional job getting ready to being prepared for this COVID transition, which is unprecedented, and they spent a lot of time trying to accommodate the best way they could and meet all the guidelines. And so hats off for them, not only this issue, but so many issues that they've faced that were unprecedented. But let me just say that I think it's going to smooth out a little bit. But the onus probably falls on us as parents to a big degree too, to work to communicate with our bus driver the best way we can, to try to alleviate, try to work on our own patience through this crisis and pandemic as well. All of that would help, in my opinion, and serve us well as a community and as a district. And I think another comment Kesha had touched on, I live on the fringe and there's 3 buses that go by my house, but if we have a bus going to Brandon, Kensington, then to Barrett, it takes more time. If they go just south of Brandon and right back in, we know that's going to decrease our bus routes dramatically. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Kayla, are you aware of the current busing issues, especially this year with the long routes where kids are getting on before 6:30 a.m. and not getting home until after 5?
I am aware. After the first 2 days of our school year, I felt like it greatly improved. And my kids were on the bus for a long time, and especially my daughter right now, we live just outside of Hoffman, so she gets on the bus, she goes to Hoffman, and then to Barrett's, and then back to Hoffman, and then to Kensington. So obviously there is both pre-COVID and post-COVID busing issues, because I know pre-COVID there was bus route issues, especially with the switchover in Hoffman, like Sheena said. There's always been an issue with that, which is one of the reasons why I am pro one site. Being able to bus all the kids to one location I think would help immensely. And there's also not enough bus drivers. I don't know how to, right now there's a lot of places that are short on staff and it's hard to figure out how to get the people to come to work. But I feel like the bus company is doing the best that they can. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're ready for our next question. This will be our 8th question. And this one has to do with bringing all of the communities together in our district. The question is, due to the nature of our small communities, it can be difficult to separate making a decision that is best for the school district and not a priority of a community. How would you handle confrontations that you would encounter related to this? So how would you join all of the communities as one WCA? I'm going to repeat that. Due to the nature of our small communities, it can be difficult to separate making a decision that is best for the school district and not a priority of the community. How would you handle confrontations that you encounter related to this? And we will be starting with Maya.
I think this is a topic that comes up a lot. And I think it falls on each one of us to support our communities. Just because I support one site doesn't mean I don't support my communities. There are many things I can do in my communities that don't have to do with the school. Supporting local businesses, all those things happen, and they can happen regardless of where the elementary school sits. So we don't have to have a building in a particular area in order to support our communities. And I think if we could separate that and everybody could come to terms with, or everybody could support their communities and continue to do that, you can do that without matter of where the school is located. We have communities that don't have schools in them. You look at Hoffman, it's the only town in our district that's grown in the last 25 years, and they don't have a school. So there's proof that it doesn't matter. If we support our community, good things can happen.
Thank you. And Claire, due to the nature of our small communities, it can be difficult to separate making a decision that is best for the school district and not a priority of the community. How would you handle confrontations that you encounter related to this?
This is a really good question because I think it's kind of the heart of what makes this so tough right now for all of us. I think you just have to keep talking and keep dialoguing, and it's not easy. Sometimes I think our kids will help us fix this faster than we will, but I think there are ways to do it, and I think it's true. You don't have to have the school in your community to feel connected. One powerful link that I think that we can grow to help our connectedness is community ed. And there's lots of pieces with community ed that could happen, not just at this site if we become a one-site district, but we could have community ed activities in the other sites. And I think that's something worth pursuing, but I'm not going to make light of the fact that this is a real challenge for us. And we have to just keep talking. And we'll get through this. Thank you.
And Terry, again, the same question to you. Due to the nature of our small communities, it can be difficult to separate making a decision that is best for the school district and not a priority of the community. How would you handle confrontations that you encounter related to this?
I think the most important thing is communication. Like I said earlier, to me the sign of a good board, I've been on several, the sign of a good board is the one that doesn't always agree. The current board, we don't all agree on everything, but we are very respectful of one another. We have a good conversation. We try to figure out what's best for the district and move forward. Like I said, we all respect one another, but we can have good conversation without yelling, without calling each other names. I think that's a big part of it. Just because someone in Elbow or Barrett or Hoffman or Kensington doesn't agree with me, or I don't agree with them, doesn't mean that we need to get in an argument about it. We can have a conversation to figure out the best option.
Thank you. And Sheena, due to the nature of our small communities, it can be difficult to separate the decision that is best for the school district and not a priority of the community. How would you handle the confrontations that you encounter related to this?
I think what Terry said about communication is huge with that, and just transparency. So the board needs to be extremely transparent when it's an issue like this because it is so sensitive. I would have to disagree with some of the comments because keeping the community strong is what keeps our district viable. Hoffman sits in a unique place because it is in the middle of two schools. So if you choose to buy a house in Hoffman, great. You have a school here, you have a school here. If we take the school out of Kensington, let's say, nobody's driving over to Kensington. There's no reason anyone is going to go drive over there. So Kensington is not going to be able to fill up its town with young families, and enrollment goes down.
Thank you. Natasha, or Heather, excuse me. We'll get it set up. Due to the nature of our small communities, it can be difficult to separate making a decision that is best for the school district and not a priority of a community. How would you handle confrontations that you encounter related to this?
Sure. Supporting our community together, being transparent and keep talking, keep the communication going, keep growing our community groups and activities, and involvement in other activities in the community as well, not just district activities, and keeping in mind that we are all people we all have feelings. Hard conversations are never fun, but with the proper open and respectful community, it will go a long way in understanding each other and hearing to both sides. And we're all wanting the same thing, and we're all wanting our district to succeed. So keeping that in mind and working together.
Okay, thank you. And Natasha, again, I'm going to repeat. Due to the nature of our small communities, it can be difficult to separate making a decision that is best for the school district and not a priority of a community. How would you handle confrontations that you encounter related to this?
I believe it's okay to have open discussions with families, and it's okay to disagree in a friendly manner. It's okay not to have the same opinions on things, and that's how changes happen. But things can be adapted with those conversations. Decisions can happen from those things, and it makes our community stronger.
Thank you. And Gary?
I would say we need to make people feel heard if there are conflicts within our communities. That's very important that we hear what they're trying to say and understand that, and then take that back, especially as it relates to the district and how we can impact and affect the students. Ultimately, I think we've made some neat changes over the last year, several years that I've been on the board, where we know we're an immediate gratification society with all kinds of social media that can hit us in a very short period of time. We've added a Facebook page that has multiple posts. People need to know what we're doing and why we're doing it. And we have multiple board meetings a month, and we have one posted on our website every single month. People can go there, gather information, understand, and hopefully hear for themselves kind of why we've moved the direction that we have in particular instances. And that's the key to it at the end of the day. And great volunteers like people like Mr. Drazel that puts together the Veterans Day, where we have members from all of our communities in, or where we recognized all past school board members and those types of things. That's an important piece. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Kayla, due to the nature of our small communities, it can be difficult to separate making a decision that is best for the school district and not a priority of the community. How would you handle confrontations that you encounter related to this?
I feel it's best, like a lot of them have said, to listen to everybody's concerns and be respectful of everybody's opinions. Day to day, I've at least one concern brought to my desk, and it's important to listen to each patient, resident, family member, no matter what their concern is. COVID has definitely brought a lot more concerns to my plate, but you just have to listen to everybody, be respectful of each of them, because they all have their own opinions. And then too, like Maya said, to be able to support local. Dave and I lived in Kensington for 7 years. And when we lived in Kensington, we supported Kensington. Once we moved to Hoffman, we support Hoffman. I honestly don't remember the last time. I mean, obviously I go to Kensington every now and then, but I don't remember the last time I was in their grocery store or whatever it might be. I feel like it is our responsibility to support the community we live in, and then also to support the district as a whole, but being able to listen to each and everybody's opinions. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Kesha. Due to the nature of our small communities, it can be difficult to separate making a decision that is best for the school district and not a priority of the community. How would you handle the confrontations that you encounter related to this?
So just as a note, I'm interpreting this question to be a broad one, not correlated just to the referendum, so that's how my response will entail. I think, stepping up and putting on a school board member hat, it is your responsibility to put the school first. Yes, you want to be mindful of your environment and your communities into the context of the decision you're making, but that shouldn't be your primary role. Our kids should be, and what opportunity or what you're voting on should be the best for the kids. And you might not be a favorable person, but that is the role of the school board, is to do what's best for our kids. Obviously, if someone came up to the community and had concerns, I would listen. You want to validate, and you want to empathize with them, because that is their experience. We all walk in different paths and shoes, so you want to make sure they're feeling heard, but then also let them know I have my school board hat on, and my role as a school board member is to do what's best for our kids and the future opportunities for our kids.
Thank you. Okay, this will be our final of our audience questions. There are a couple that we did not get to. We'll give this to the administration, and then they'll see if they would like to put that out to the candidates to also answer, as they will get all of the questions that were presented as well. So the last question, and we'll be starting with Claire first, at least of the audience questions. So if elected, what do you envision the first year being like? If elected, what do you envision the first year being like? Claire.
Well, even though I've been an educator for many years and I've sat in a lot of board meetings, I'm nervous. I think there'll be lots to learn about protocol and procedure, and lots to do with our community, to be listening to people, probably more so right now than in years, because we have a volatile and high intensity issue right now with the bond. So I anticipate communicating and visiting with lots of families and community members about our issues. I'm excited though if I'm elected.
Thank you. And Terry, if elected, what do you envision that first year being like? Or the next year being like?
I picture it being just like the last four. every board meeting we have, the agenda, we never know what's going to pop up. Doing the best job we can for the district and for the staff. It's no secret I'm a big supporter of our staff, like I said earlier, and whatever we can do as a board to give them the tools that they need is what I'm all about as for being on board.
Thank you. And then Sheena, if elected, what do you envision the first year being like?
I imagine the first year there would be a lot of learning going on. I would definitely look forward to hearing from families in the community. I kind of enjoy talking with them and getting their perspectives, so I think over the first year I would probably be taking a lot in, but I really look forward to serving on the board.
Thank you. And then Heather, if elected, what do you envision the first year being like?
I too imagine there will be much to learn. While I do have experience with working with school boards in my past life, actually being there one is a different story, and going through and learning the process and procedures firsthand, taking it in and learning from the other members and learning about them and working together to be the best board and support your district together as a team.
Thank you. And Natasha, if elected, what do you envision the first year being like?
I believe part of it would be a learning curve, learning the procedures and protocol of this particular board. But I have served on boards in the past, so I can bring some of that experience of working on those teams to the board also. So that'll help get a better start with it. And then being able to listen to the community and their wants and needs and the staff. And working with the school, I think it'll be a great experience and helping the community.
Thank you. And then Gary, if elected or re-elected, what do you envision that next year being like?
Well, one thing I do know is that the board dynamic will change for sure with Jill Buchan's not running again, so that's a good thing. We will have a new look and a new feel that we need to understand and get to know each other and work together. Ultimately, we need to invest in ourselves, I think, as board members. I have a big belief that we need to be continual learners and constantly trying to challenge ourselves. Minnesota State School Boards Association, MDA, understanding, learning, reading, following the guidelines, and then looking at other great schools that are in our state and even outside of our state. How can we implement some of those best practices and procedures so that we can achieve success? And then I would say over the next year, we'll work to maximize the resources that are given to our teachers so that our students can achieve success.
Thank you. And then Kayla, if elected, what do you envision the first year being like?
If I was elected, I'd envision a lot of learning. There is a lot that goes into being a school board member, so I would have to learn a lot of new things, but I'm up for the challenge, and I look forward to serving on the board. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Kesha, if elected, what do you envision the first year being like?
It would be being a new member, so of course there'd be an orientation process and then just understanding MD's policies and procedures and expectations a little bit more of a board member. I know there's different ethical codes and stuff like that, so just familiarizing myself with that as well. And then I would say, getting the public feedback would be important. I've already got calls and people wanting to discuss issues. I'm just running, so I think being open to the community to address that. So it would be community relations, and then also I think something that will definitely need to be on the table the first year is whether this referendum passes or not. We need to be addressing what we're doing facility-wise, if you will.
Thank you. And then Maya, if elected, what do you envision the next year being like?
I think the next year or 2 or 3 is going to be a lot of work. Whether we pass a referendum or we don't pass a referendum, there's a lot of things that have to be done. If we pass, obviously, we have to design and build the best school possible for our kids. If it doesn't pass, we have to figure out what's next, and that doesn't happen in 90 days. You don't just come up with a plan for your school in 3 months. So there's a lot of work that's